Welcome to the Den of Tools.
Howdy ho, guys and gals, it's Red, your friendly neighborhood tool bear, back again here in the Den of Tools. And today we're here to talk about something, well, you know, they talk about Blue Mondays in January, about how depressing it is. Well, nothing's getting bluer than the state of morale over at Lowe's. Yeah, Lowe's is running into some hard times here. They're having some issues with employee morale, and it's getting kind of scary. But let's get some backstory real quick so you can understand where this is coming from. What we got to do is got to understand where Lowe's is in the whole environment of this whole thing. Lowe's actually used to be the big boy in the block till Home Depot came around. Home Depot just, grew like, nobody's business here. And as of right now, Home Depot has 2,285 stores. Lowe's has just over 2,000. Really, when you think about it, though, as far as across the country and stuff like that, that's neck and neck. They're right there with each other, battling hard. The next one is Menards at 350. You got Harbor Freight at 1,000. So, you would expect Lowe's and Home Depot, they're so close in stores, they'd be close in profit and stuff as well, right? Well, let's look at the picture the stocks tell us. And if you look at the stock line, they look at, hey, they follow themselves. They're pretty close. Sometimes Home Depot's up more often than not. Sometimes Lowe's is up. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you look, come down in January 2020, they're neck and neck. They got to be close, right? Well, here's the thing. Look at that stock price. The Lowe's stock price is $122, whereas the Home Depot stock price is $231. That's almost twice. Now, better yet, go over and look at the market cap. Now, for those of you who don't know what market cap means, that's all right. The bear will explain it to you. Basically, just look at it like this. Here's the easy way to understand. If you owned all the stock, 100%, and you sold it today, that's how much money approximately you would have. If you owned Lowe's and you sold it, you'd have $93 billion. If you owned Home Depot and you sold it, you'd have $252 billion. Why the disparity? I mean, these stores are so close. Why is that? Well, let's look at the net earnings. And we're going to go back to 2017, where this whole story started. And this is the report here from Lowe's, or I'm sorry, from Home Depot. And Home Depot's like net sales $100,904, right? Except those are in millions. Okay, that's $100.9 billion in sales. That's a whole chunk of change. Now we go over to Lowe's to see. I mean, they've got almost as many stores. They're right neck and neck, right? They've got to have. I mean, the store size. If you look at how could Lowe's be any different? Well, Lowe's is a lot different. Instead of 100 billion, you're looking at 68 billion. That is a huge difference when it comes to gross sales. But really what this comes down to is a bunch of people who are the owners, the stockholders, not being too happy to see this store that looks like on paper and when you're there in person, they should be neck and neck with Home Depot. Why is Home Depot just beating them up, down, left, right? Man, I mean, it's not even a fair fight, it looks like. And in this case, it's not the individual stockholders so much as the large corporate, what do they call them? The institutional stockholders like Vanguard, SSGA, BlackRock, and stuff like that. These are the big stockholders and they're not happy with the way that Lowe's is. This is back in 2017. They're not happy with the way that things are going at Lowe's, and you really can't blame them. They're like, we've got all the assets. We've got all the material here. We should be doing as good as Home Depot. There's just no reason we're not. And I do have to kind of laugh as, whenever I think about publicly traded companies, I often think about this quote about politics, which is better to be ruled by a tyrant 3,000 miles away or 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away. I mean, it would be better to have a single owner or thousands of crybaby stockholders who are like, my stock dropped 25 cents. One of the problems with corporate America and corporations around the world is that they only care about the stock price. These owners, they don't ever seem to have any kind of long-term view. It's really hard for a company to put away profits for right now. Take shorter profits now for longer profits or better profits later. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But at the end of the day, they're like, we want that CEO gone. And so Lowe's was forced to get a new CEO. So what do? Well, they go to a retailing giant like JCPenney's because they're doing so good that they decide to poach the CEO from JCPenney's. Now, and they hired CEO Marvin Ellison or they hired him for CEO over at Lowe's, and he came over to run the company. And to be fair, he actually was a big time guy over at Home Depot for years, and that's where he really made his bones there. And in fact, he got passed over at the last minute for the top job at Home Depot, and that's why he jumped ship and went to JCPenney's. And then, of course, as soon as Lowe's came around, he was more than happy to get back in that game where he felt like he was more in a situation where he could do better. He didn't do a great job over at JCPenney's, but honestly, I don't know if anyone could. JCPenney's is they're like Sears. They're so far behind the game. They didn't change. They didn't adapt fast enough. There really isn't much you could do for them except maybe pull an old Yeller on them. For you young cubs, you talk to dad or mom, and they'll explain it to you. So anyway, so Marvin comes in with his plan. He's going to build Lowe's back up. How's he going to do it? Well, he's going to do a back to the basics kind of fundamental rebuild kind of thing. It's like when you bring in a new coach. A lot of times he decides he's going to really shake things up, go back to the basics, learn the fundamentals, and quite often it's pretty unpopular, and for very good reasons. Lowe's announced they would cut thousands of workers, like just flat out lay them off. And they've proceeded to do just that. In many cases, laying off workers who'd been there 10, 20 years. But we're going to get into the hows and whys of that here in a little bit, but that is where a lot of this angst is coming from. Now, a lot of people have since been reporting that Lowe's workers say morale is reaching an all-time low as the home improvement giant rolls out changes to the store. Well, when you've been working there and you've been working a long time and your family's dependent on your salary and you think you've got a career, and all of a sudden somebody's like, you know what, we're going to have to let you go. That's coming because you've heard that the axe was coming down. That's not a fun and or exciting thing to see happen. But, it's not unexpected when you're trying to rebuild a company. These changes have to get made, and one of the biggest costs that any company has is going to be in the area of HR. It's human resources, people, man hours. That just, it eats up so much money. Now, let's go into this. Lowe's employees say the policy changer that a lot of times that's really affecting them is work time. They've been forced to come in and work at different hours. Lowe's implemented a customer-centric scheduling. I mean, go figure, right? They want you to be there when the customer's there. And a lot of employees were upset saying, well, we want them to work around our schedule. And I'm sure Lowe's management was like, we'd like to be able to let you work around your schedule, but, we have customers. I don't know what to tell you. And this is, by the way, they're like the last ones to the game with this. Everyone's been moving towards this. But, and then Larry, a lot of stuff was said online, and some people, commented saying they weren't happy. A Business Insider even went out and talked to all of 6 Lowe's employees before running with these kind of articles and stuff. And the CEO, Marvin Ellison, decided to respond saying tremendous changes in stores, blah, blah, blah. Basically saying, he said that, they didn't talk to enough people. We're making the changes we need to make. Often they're not popular, but we're trying to make the company more profitable. Go figure. I mean, that's kind of what a CEO's job is. Now, this is going to translate into the real kind of meat of this video, which is actually somebody else's video. And if you haven't watched him, I suggest you do. If for nothing else, he's a humorous guy to listen to, and that is Camelot 331. Now, he does a video. He worked at GameStop for 11 years. Now, I know you can make your comments about working at GameStop for 11 years. And his channel really took off when he started focusing on how badly GameStop was going down. And now, hold on just a second. There's no surprise. If you know anything about technology or media or whatnot, there's no surprise that GameStop was destined to die. It just can't continue. Why? Well, the same reason Blockbuster can't survive. It's the same reason that, 8-tracks aren't around, because the technology moved forward. Now people can download games directly to their consoles and to their PCs. They don't need to go to a store to buy these games anymore. We almost never go to the store. I got 3 cubs. They love video games. We're almost never, maybe once a year, we're in a GameStop. And it used to be like, oh, we could sell your stuff again. But now they give you pennies on the dollar. Why? Because, cost of running, an actual retail store, there's a lot of overhead. And a lot of it comes to do with, hiring people. Anyway, we're not here to talk about GameStop and how obvious this was. But basically what happened was the management at GameStop came down and cracked down on anybody complaining about it online, and got to the point where they were firing anybody, and they wanted you to give them access to all your social media so they could, like Big Brother, check up on you. And you got to watch some of his videos on it. They're great. But recently he's branched out to talk about, do some muckraking, if you will, with some other companies. He's talked about McDonald's and Walmart and stuff, all the usual suspects. And he talked about Lowe's. Now, I don't agree with him 100% on this. I think he does bring up some good points, but a lot of it, I think what he does is that kind of perspective of, I'm just looking at it from the employee. I think my payroll comes from a magic place. I don't understand how business works. I just think I should be treated fairly, but I don't have any basis for what fair is other than really what I want. And I don't blame him. He's a young guy. He probably has never really worked in management, never run a company. And the bear here, I've been on both sides. I've been that basic employee who didn't make squat, who worked really hard, went to the boss and was like, hey, I deserve a raise. And the boss is like, honestly, I got to tell you, a monkey could do your job. And I kid here, but I've honestly been told stuff like that, like, hey, Bear, you do a great job and you put 120% in it, but this job really only calls for 65%. And as great as you are, maybe you should try doing something else because you're too much of a bear for this job. And I'm not trying to, toot my own horn, but I see people who work hard, who complain about these things. And really, what you should do is you should realize you have a job at that position. You don't have a career, and you should be moving on. You should be moving up and pushing for that next level and having some gumption to get there. And I think that a lot of what I'm seeing here is people who are like, I got this job, it pays decently, I just want to do this, and then get incremental, update or pay raises every year up until like 20 years. I'm making 3 times my salary. And the reality is, when Lowe's or any other company looks back at that job, no matter how good you are at it, isn't worth that much to them. If you want to make more, you got to get a better job. But that's not the only thing. I'm not saying that he's wrong about some of this stuff. If you want to have some real fun, go over to r/Lowe's over on Reddit. Usually it's a bunch of guys and gals complaining about customers and stuff, or complaining about just regular work related stuff. But sometimes they do go off on some of the stuff there that you see about what it's like dealing with management at Lowe's. It's a pretty good read. Also, if you go on Glassdoor really lets you know what it's like to work for a place. Now, granted, you're mostly going to hear the people who are complaining. They're going to have the loudest voices. But like this guy says, I've been working at Lowe's full-time for 10 years. And he's like, the new CEO is terrible. He's like, I'm powerless to do jobs assigned work because assignments change work to the moment. We routinely have more management than line employees during work. Customers are an afterthought in our daily routines. Which is funny because this was February 8th of 2019. And the latest complaint I heard was that Lowe's has made it so that it's customer centric. During certain hours of the day, you're not allowed to work on your section. You have to do customer service 100%. And that if they find you like restocking shelves and stuff, you'll get in trouble. And Lowe's employees were complaining that our departments look like a mess. I can't feel good about my work. Well, I gotta tell you, as a customer, I'm kind of the reason you're here. I get trying to make the place look nice and stuff, but when the customers are there and they're shopping, I don't know any business who'd be like, hey, you know what you should do? You should ignore the customers and make sure you straighten up your area. It's usually goes back to what I learned, which is if you have time to lean, you have time to clean, which means work with the customers when it's busy, and when it's not busy, that's when you do that kind of stuff. It's time management kind of stuff. But anyway, they're not the only ones, man. There are lots of people complaining online. Marvin Ellison is clueless, blah, blah, blah. Lots of people complaining about this, that, and the other thing. And some of it's pretty valid, some of it not so much. And one of the biggest things that we hear, one of the justifications for all this kibitzing and stuff from the employees is that if Lowe's doesn't make a change, then employees are not going to be happy with the customer service because they're firing all the people who've been there forever and they're hiring new kids to take their place. And well, there's a reason they do that. Those new kids are cheaper. And as I said, that job's only worth so much for them. Now they're like, well, we think that people won't continue shopping here because they'll go over to the Home Depot instead. I'll be honest, when I go into Lowe's, my general attitude is, yeah, I know more than you. So no, I don't need your help. Now, I will say Lowe's in general for the homeowner has always been the place to go where maybe you can get a little bit more help. Because I'll be honest, Home Depot has, for me, for as long as I can remember, been the place of, hello? Does anybody work here? Oh, look, there goes a forklift. No, Home Depot is, I mean, if that's what you're competing against, they've set the bar pretty low when it comes to customer service. And I hear from guys and gals that work at Lowe's and work at Home Depots, and they tell me like, oh, the customer service about this, or that, they're worked too hard. So there's all sorts of reasons. But honestly, all I can think to myself is, gee, I hope Menards gets off their fuzzy backside and starts opening stores outside their region. I would actually love to see them here. But back to Lowe's. Here's the part that actually made me consider to do this, because a lot of what I saw with the other people arguing about it was, well, yeah, that's what you got to do when you run a company. You got to make some cuts. The company was not being profitable the way it should be. They were obviously, they were way behind Home Depot and in danger of going out of business. Even though they were making profits and they were doing well, at some point, Home Depot would get so far past them, they wouldn't be able to catch up in that race. And that's when you're the owner of a company, that's what you do. You complain and say, hey, you need to make changes. Here's the problem. Lowe's spent billions on buybacks trying to raise their stock value, which is great. They spent zero on severance. They got rid of all these people who've been there forever to make these changes and offered severance to none of them. You've heard the bear talk about before. There's ethics in business. And if you don't think there are, then you've watched too many movies. There are companies, they're supposed to have a sense of responsibility to their employees and to the community. It's supposed to be a symbiotic as opposed to a parasitic relationship. Yeah, you're going to take stuff from the community, but you should give back as well. And a large part of that giving back is those jobs. And when you fire people and tell them, oh yeah, sorry, no severance. You've been here 20 years. We love you. You've been great. You're one of the family. Now we got to let you go. I don't know what to tell you. And if you're saying, they're saying, well, I think morale's going down. Well, hell yeah, morale's going down. If I know I'm going to get axed at any moment with no severance after I put 20 years into a company, yeah, my morale's going to be at an all-time lows. Come on, you knew it was coming. I had to do it. Here's the worst part. Lowe said, if you are laid off, if you are let go, guess what? You can apply for a new job. We're hiring 53,000 people this spring. But guess what? You're going to be hired as a new employee starting at base level, and you're not going to get any of the benefits. You're not going to get any of that other stuff you've earned over all those 10 to 20 years you were working. It's tragic what they're doing. I get why Lowe's has to make these changes. I don't get why Lowe's has to make the changes this way. They could have slowed their earnings potential. Yeah, they're gonna right the company. They're going to increase profit margin, and yeah, they're gonna probably ending up looking a lot more like Home Depot. And if you don't like Home Depot and you like shopping at Lowe's instead, that may not be a good thing for you. I know I usually prefer shopping at Lowe's, but the fact of the matter is, they've got to compete in a market against a truly juggernaut of a company. So they got to get lean and mean, but they didn't have to be this kind of mean, if you know what I mean. If I say mean one more time, feel free to slap the bear. I'm out of control here. Point of the matter is, they are now running the Home Depot game plan, hardcore. Marvin came in, that's where he learned his business. That's how he did it. And he's just now applying that same business plan to Lowe's. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Time will tell, but I think he could have done it better. In fact, this is an open invitation to Marvin. Marvin's going to be here in February. He's going to be, the Bears in Vegas. He's going to be in Vegas in February for the annual sales meeting. I got an open invitation to Marvin. If he wants to come on the Den of Tools and explain why he's making these changes, I would love to talk to him. But that said, for the rest of you, don't get stuck in your job. If you're going to stay there for a long time, you're going to stay in a position for longer than 2 years, you need to look at, is this a career? How long am I going to be here? I see cashiers, I've been a cashier for 20 years. If you get laid off after 20 years as a cashier and you didn't make enough money after 20 years as a cashier, you should have moved on. You can't stay stagnant, because that's what happens when you're stagnant, is that eventually you shrivel up and that it goes away. Consider some of the other, especially if you're a younger guy or gal, 20 fastest jobs growing in the U.S. One of them is solar installers. It's a tough job. I would hate to be out here in the Vegas summer installing. I've seen people working 120 degree heat up on these roofs, but I got to tell you what, they're making good money doing it. They really are. And, there's other great jobs out there as well. I'm not going to be one of the guys telling you, learn to code or something. Massage therapists, forest fire inspectors, operational research, information security analyst, physical therapist, bicycle repair. There you go. Genetic counselors. What the snot is a genetic counselor? I mean, you got your genetics. You're kind of done there, aren't you? Median pay is $77,000. Okay, I'm going to become a genetic counselor. Medical assistants, occupational therapists, physical therapists, mathematicians. Yeah, we can just jump into that one. Physical therapists, again, software developers, I said, learn to code, statisticians, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants, personal cares, home health aides, wind turbine service technicians. Those people, who makes a lot of money doing that? Professional rock climbers, because, they don't have like a full-time job, and they'll get on these calls where they're told, like, we're going to fly you to so-and-so, and you're going to go up on top of this turbine and fix this thing. And that's what they do. And of course, solar photovoltaic installers. Median pay is $40,000 a year. Oh man, I would think that would be more. I guess maybe it is around here. The people I've talked to around these parts, they do make a good bit more. Anyway, that's what the beer has for you on this topic. I get it. It can be a hard topic to talk about. I mean, if you understand business, they got to make these choices. There's just no, they're going to have to lay people off. They need to make big choices across the board. They need to get leaner and get those stock prices up, because their owners aren't happy and they have a right to be not happy. That said, there's a more ethical way to do it. Anyway, hope you come by, check out Tool Talk Live this Sunday. Tools, Tech, Talk, so much more, all sorts of fun with the whole gang there. Anyway, that's it for today. You all take care. Have a happy Martin Luther King Day, and God bless. And as always, shine on.